The Coalition has suggested allowing first home buyers to access up to $50,000 of their super. Considering the recent economic instability caused by international trade tensions and the rising cost of living, how does your party plan to balance facilitating home ownership for young families with ensuring their long-term financial security, especially in retirement?
You haven't been able to buy a house, is that right?
No, but I'm sure that some people didn't have to use their super to buy their 27th or 26th home either. I don't know why we should have to do that. What are we going to do later? And we can all use our super, but then all the house prices go up anyway.
Unfortunately, far too many millennials and Gen Z are not on a trajectory to own their own house. And the key test of your success in retirement is your housing status, not your superannuation balance. And so that's why we want to give people an opportunity to use their own money in superannuation to buy a house. Now, if you take money out of super and buy a first house, let's say it's a first flat or apartment, you are way better off over the long term in having your own property rather than leaving it in the super funds and letting that be managed by the super funds, who themselves are massive property investors. Labor will do anything to block Australians from getting into a first house. They love the idea of the big super funds investing into Australian residential property, but they want to stop you from using your own money in superannuation to get onto the property ladder.
I understand the argument that taking money out of your super when you're relatively young, you have years to reaccrue it. I kind of get that. The part I've never quite understood is, why doesn't it just inflate the price of the existing housing by 50k? Because the amount of houses hasn't properly really been dealt with.
Like, it's bigger than that.
I get that it's bigger than that. I'm doing simplification. I think the thing that it doesn't really solve is, where are the houses coming from? This is a supply and demand problem. And it's not just about building houses, it's about building communities, and the things I was saying earlier about making sure they've got transport and schools and, and roads and things like that. I feel like that policy doesn't quite do enough to kind of take into the complexity of the issue. And so I understand ways in which it could work. I understand ways in which it could be beneficial. I just don't see it as this smoking gun to solve what is actually quite a big, complicated problem.
Under this government, housing construction has collapsed. Under the last Liberal government, it was 195,000 houses a year on average. Now it's down to 170,000 a year on average. It's gone massively backwards, and that's why there's such a huge squeeze, because this government hasn't been able to get houses built. The supply side is a nightmare, and they've done nothing to help first-home buyers get into the market.
Do you acknowledge that it has been hard to get the houses built?
A couple of things. When we came to government, housing supply costs were going through the roof. The Coalition had not had a housing minister for the majority of the period that they were in government, and they'd dismantled all of the public infrastructure that you would need to be able to work with the states and territories to bring on supply. We accept that this is a very large problem and it requires a degree of government ambition. We need to get involved.